Hello, it's Radagast at your service, and this is Hive, Hive Mind and Autonomy, the real duality. So let's just kind of start off with the idea of the original one, okay? And we'll make this real quick. So we have the one being, the original being. And as we know, the process seems to start that the being made another of itself. Okay, so now it's individuated itself. So at this moment we have a stasis. We have two, but it's just two of the same thing, so it might as well be the same thing. Okay, so where autonomy comes in, because it just so happens that this one is always autonomy. That's where the free will comes in. So from these two exact things of autonomy, the fact is that what it develops is one can think separately or just have a thought when the other one isn't. So let's say now we have these two static pieces. One has a thought. Now because of the entanglement or kind of hive-mindedness, now this thought transmits to that one, which creates movement. Okay, so now you see what actually happens in a battery, where basically you have a positive and negative charge and an electron moves. So that first thought is like an electron moving, and you have power. And then of course from there we can get into the various individuations, and I don't really want to complicate it, because I'm always trying to bring everything down to right here where we're stuck, and not because too much of what we've been doing, those of us who are not of the conspiracy mind so much and more of the esoteric minded, is we're always going to go greater and greater, and we end up with a huge bag of facts and whatever, and meanwhile it's like the utility of it is not always apparent. So for me, utility is where to go with this. So basically what you have to have this difference of the same thing to create dynamism, and to create homeostasis. So that's the whole thing, is you're always, every point, and this is how a body can work, because you have all of these, hive, like certain collections of cell, but with autonomy, and this creates a constant interaction between all the cells, which is communication. And that communication occurs because there's that slight little bit of difference through autonomy that creates a dynamism. Now, it's interesting that Graham Hancock, I hope you're familiar with the name of Graham Hancock, an author, Fingerprints of the Gods, and he's like myself. I'm open to a pure, let us say, John Lash Sophianic narrative that is pure human-based. ETs are out of the equation completely. So I'm open to that. It's just I have this other body of evidence that is not letting me ignore it. So I'm working with incorporating that. At one point, something might kick out of the pure organic Sophianic narrative, but for now I'm working with this other body of things. So back to where we're going. Hive mind duality. So with Graham Hancock, he was, one of his things why he's saying, I'm not sure, because if there are ETs, they would have, be into exact knowledge, and he has measured the pyramids, and the pyramids have been shown to not be quite exact. And I don't disagree with it, because for the pyramids to be effective, they couldn't be exact. And I remember getting this piece from somebody else. But as soon as I heard it, I went, oh, I totally got it. By building if the pyramid was perfect in everything, it would be settled with itself. It would sit there and just be perfect. Perfect is stasis. It's a form of death in a way, which is why as the elite try to create the perfect society, they create more and more death. Isn't that funny? I'm not sure they're aware of that, because I think some of them are truly convinced they're trying to create the perfect society, not understanding that perfection is death. Okay, so the pyramids are built a little out because they were meant to operate as energy generators, and the energy is generated by the fact that it's not perfect, so it creates this little bit of disequilibrium, and because the nature of everything is homeostasis, to be out of disequilibrium sets up a need to find homeostasis. Now, the pyramid the fact that it is constructed and will never shift will create a constant disequilibrium. This is its power. It's this movement that this equilibrium, trying to find homeostasis, that is the very source of the pyramid's power in that form. I mean, any form that generates power will have to be somewhat askew to be dynamic. So, as the whole problem is comprehension, so unity is really based in what is a hive mind. Look at how a hive works. There's a central point, the queen, and then she has her workers. Now we call them workers. It's a community. It's a world. It's what they do. And besides, people think of worker bees, going out, and we think of gathering pollen maybe is a way of going out to the fields and have to bring back sacks of stuff. The bees go out to eat. They go out to eat nectar, and they have these appendages on their legs that are kind of like almost like Velcro. So when they land in there, the pollen sticks to it. And so while they're feeding, they're collecting. It's not they have a bag and they have to gather and go, oh, I got to bring this back to the hive because I'm a worker bee. This is why a lot of people resist hive-mindedness, because of, first of all the archontic insertions into things like worker bee. Okay, so the bees go out to eat all day. They get the pollen all over their legs, and then when they return to the hive, they actually get groomed. This stuff is pulled off and whatever by those worker bees who are sitting around with the honey and feeding the bee propolis. This is all part of a dynamic, wonderful world. Excuse me. So again, there is really no duality other than the necessary duality for dynamism. And the big part, now duality thinking is what I call slamming yourself to one wall of the other, the yes or no. And you can say yes or no about absolutes, but then you're stuck at yes or no and absolutes, instead of, as I described in an earlier video, the dynamic field in between the two poles created by being different, and the fact they want to be the same because it all is the same. We are all one. But through autonomy, there's always a little bit of difference. And it's this communication. In many ways, it's almost like we could say, from a pure kind of scientific point, we'll see it as trying to, achieve homeostasis from disequilibrium. But at another line, it's purely communication. This disequilibrium is basically this other aspect of myself doesn't know what I've just done or just thought, so I have to deliver the goods. And so again, this is the absolute, this is the engine of it all. And so in trying to dispel some of the spell of archontic thinking, is to really how to be able to resolve the thing where we're all one, and then it not dissolving into this mush of we are all one. The one is the hiveness, the common unity of it all. That is it. So it's not mush oneness. It's not oblivion one. It's dynamic, autonomous, rooting in that commonness. And it's not knowing it that makes duality happen. And I'm getting ready to close, because I want to keep this to 10 minutes. Anybody who believes in politics is stuck in duality thinking. Please think of how a hive would run if you had separate parties in it. You can't. There can only be one party of unified thought. Once again, autonomy, but there's this and part of it is this fear that is put into our heads. It's a program about really achieving unity. Any idea of unity they use is communism. I mean, they're always going to have a word to stick on an idea that's healthy, that isn't the true, like communism is not hive-mindedness. Although the one-party state is. So there's a lot of nuance here, but I just really wanted to open up the idea of we are one, we are separate, how there's through right-mindedness, being clear, not being full of all kinds of agendas, a lot of them just emotionally driven from wounds that we have not attended to, so it turns into needs, and we're always trying to satisfy those needs that are personal needs because they're personal wounds. And meanwhile, there's a hive that needs to be maintained with healthy hivers, whatever you want to call it. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up. I thank you very much, and before all else, I look for the God within you.